going on? This is Johnny from the Hangout Spot, working for the Boxing Voice today, and I am here with former two-time champion, two-division champion, Paulie Malignaggi, ProBox's very own. How you doing today, champ?
I'm good, man. How are you? How's things?
I'm doing well. So another great card here tonight on ProBox TV with the main event. I think it's going to be fireworks. Jarrett Hurd against Jeison Rosario. What do you think about that one?
We're a growing brand over here at ProBox TV. I tell you, this is our first main event where both guys were world champions. You know, we've had ex-champions. We've even had some guys that have been on our network that have gone on to become champions as well. You know, the brand is sort of growing, so now the product that has fought on the brand is starting to show itself after a while. You know, at first you're like, oh, it's pretty good fights, but you don't know how it's going to turn out long haul, right? Now long haul, we've had some guys that became world champions, some guys that even challenged for world titles, some guys move on to better fights, some guys don't. You know, we've always given you a good product as far as the matchups are concerned, but also we've got guys that move on to bigger things now, and that has shown itself. So we've had ex-champions, but not a battle of ex-world champions. So we really think that the winner of tonight's fight, probably in what looks like a little bit of an empty middleweight division in terms of star power. There's good fighters at middleweight, but there's not a lot of star power at middleweight. The winner probably could move right into a title fight. That's what we think. That's why we're excited about this card tonight in this main event with Jarrett Hurd and Jeison Rosario. So we hope that it lives up to the expectation. A lot of our cards do.
Oh, absolutely, man. Great show every other Wednesday. So yeah, like you said, this is definitely a division that's looking for a name to take it over.
Yeah,
you know, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's some good fighters. Lara is obviously a little bit aged, but he's a world champion there. Danny Garcia's going to challenge him again, a little bit on the older side, but he's going to challenge him there. Some name recognition, but there's not that firepower name. You know, Carlos Adames, I think, is a very good fighter as well, but again, he hasn't had that star power. But I think Hurd and Rosario bring some recognition as ex-champions from the lower weight class. They come up and they sort of add a little more spice to that recipe as well. So it'll be something good to see tonight, and we look forward to seeing more of it. And as far as every other Wednesday, that's been our motto, but we're going to be going a little bit. We're going to be switching the schedule up a little bit. We're going to be moving into a little bit higher budget fights soon. So I think tonight is already an example of that, with being able to afford a little bit more name recognition fighters. And I think in the next 6 months to a year, we're going to be bringing up you a different level of fights as well. So we're continuing to grow, and we hope the fans at home are enjoying it. Tell your friends about ProBox TV, because the better ProBox TV does, guys, the better the fighters we can afford to bring you here at the network. And we know we love to make those matchups. It's not just about the fighters, it's about the fights themselves. We count the fan first.
Oh, absolutely. That's great news, man. That's great news, because like I said, you guys always put on action-packed fights. And what about ProBox's very own Angelo Leo?
Yeah, Angelo Leo, we talk about guys that have gone on to become world champions. That's one of our guys that has gone on to become world champion. And not just gone on to become world champion. Angelo fit the criteria in a lot of ways. He was also a guy who had been a world champion who fought on ProBox TV. So remember I said, you know, we've had guys that have been world champions before that fought on the network, and we've had guys that have gone on to become world champions or even fight for world titles. Angelo fits both criteria. When he fought here originally at ProBox, he was an ex-world champion. He lost the world title to Stephen Fulton at 122. And then he came back and he sort of rebuilt himself here on ProBox. It looked really good doing it, and he wound up looking so good that he got a shot at the world title. And you know, not only did he win the world title, he won it as an underdog and in impressive knockout fashion. You know, I think that's going to be a contender for knockout of the year. And to be able to do it in front of his hometown, I really think it's going to be a special moment. Those are the kind of moments. Obviously, winning world championships are special moments. The way you win world championships also can vary from fighter to fighter. But I think this is going to be a moment very special to Angelo, even long after he's retired, to be able to win a world title in his hometown like that with a knockout of the year contender. Who knows? Maybe he will win knockout of the year. We will see.
Oh, it's definitely going to be up there, and against the opponent, man, against Lopez.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
basically untouchable in that division.
Venano was rough, man, and Venano, rightfully so, went into the fight as a 3-1 favorite. So this was not, a cupcake walk in the park for Angelo Leo. He had come in with some momentum, with some good wins on ProBox TV, which I think prepped him for the title fight, but he was still a pretty heavy underdog because Venano was looking really, really good. But Angelo also showed, you know, the preparation you get on ProBox TV. We don't give you cupcake opponents here. If you earn your shot from ProBox TV, that means you've gone up through the ringer, and you're battle tested when you get into those big fights. And Angelo, as an ex-champion, you know, he proved the medal that he has, both as an ex-champion, a guy who knows how to rebuild, and a guy who knows how to win championships again.
That's absolutely awesome, man. So 2 hot topics before I let you go. So Turki Al-Sheikh recently said on a podcast that nothing is impossible when it comes to possibly meeting Canelo's monetary demands for a future fight versus Crawford, or maybe even Benavidez. My question: how do you feel about that? And do you think either fight is realistic?
I don't know. I'm not really interested in the Crawford and Canelo fight. I think Crawford showed his ceiling at a 154. It was a very, very competitive fight against Madrimov. I think he pulled it out maybe in the last round or so. You know, it was very, very competitive. And granted, 154 pounds is a very, very hungry and high caliber weight class with a lot of good fighters. And not just that they're very good fighters, world class fighters, they're also hungry. Canelo, sometimes you wonder how hungry he is. So maybe this Crawford looking for a guy who's sort of got a heavy belly already and he's sort of satisfied and he won't give it his all, and maybe he can sort of pick off those titles at 168. You still got to be careful because Canelo is so big and he's still strong. Maybe it's not the same Canelo. Maybe it's not a Canelo who's even looking for the biggest competitive fights. Clearly, he's not. But you know, you're still going to be dealing with a guy who's much bigger and much stronger. And one thing about Canelo, you got to look at even at his faded age, or at least look at not so much faded age, but faded style that he's using. Not very active, but he still cuts off the ring very well. He still presents his body in front of you very, very well, and that can put mental pressure on you. I know the Caleb Plant fight now is a long time ago, and maybe Canelo's a different fighter, but I like the way he did that in those fights against Caleb Plant, against Billy Joe Saunders, even in the Golovkin rematch, which I'm not sure he won the Golovkin rematch. Some people do think that, and some people agree, but either way, he still brought his presence forward, and that creates that mental pressure. I don't know what Crawford will be able to do about that, because you saw that he wasn't able to get a whole lot of respect from Madrimov through his power, and he wasn't able to hold him off. And Crawford's legs are terrific still, even at his age. But Canelo's going to bring more pressure, and there's also more firepower behind that pressure. Maybe he's not active with his hands, but Canelo a lot of times isn't active because he doesn't waste a lot of punches. When he throws, he's pretty accurate. So, you know, I don't know, man. I would have rather seen the 168-pound division move in a better way, you know, in a way where the titles move around, you know, like you're just making Hollywood fights now. You look at Hollywood fights. I would have loved to see the Benavidez and Canelo fight. He was a mandatory for 3 years. That was clearly not only a duck, but that was really brazenly politics. I mean, how do you not uphold the mandatory status if you're the WBC? That was sort of shameful and disgraceful there as well. But you know, that's boxing, right? So we'll see. I'm sure Crawford and Canelo will always occupy the conversation no matter who they fight. But we'll see.
Yeah, so I interviewed Jose Sr. a couple weeks ago, and it's almost like they're very ready to move on.
What do you say? Jose Sr. Benavidez?
Yes, Jose Benavidez Sr. I interviewed him for my channel.
I mean, there's nothing.
And they're like over it.
If you can't, when I talked to David last 6 months ago, we on ProBox TV, he told us he refused to take step-aside money. He didn't ask for step-aside money because he didn't want to make it look like to the public that he was willing to accept anything other than the fight, you know? So he didn't even, because I asked, why don't you just take step-aside money at least? Something should be forced by the WBC. He's like, I don't want that step-aside money because I want everybody to see just how big of a duck this is. This is probably the biggest duck I've ever seen in my life. I don't know that there's a bigger duck in the history of boxing than this right here. Only because the guy's a champion in your weight class, in the weight class that you are the champion. You know, sometimes guys say, oh, this guy ducked that guy, but they were different weight classes. So it's kind of a duck, but it's not really not. This is in the same weight class, a mandatory for 3 years. You have all of the belts. This is your mandatory for 3 years, and you didn't fight him. So it's tough to really look at it in any other way, aside from, hey, Canelo's earned the right to do that. Well, then that means you're not really respecting the sport. You're just thinking, okay, he's above the sport. And if you start holding that standard, you got to be careful, because that's a slippery slope you go down. Because then the other guys are going to start doing it, feeling like, oh, I've earned my right to not have to uphold the rules in boxing. Before you know it, you've got a snowball effect of this, and you ruin the sport. So it's very, very important to uphold the standards and the principles of the sport, no matter what, you know. And this is very blatant here. But you know, we'll see. We'll see how Canelo looks with Berlanga this weekend as well. You know, we don't want to get too far ahead. Guys, clearly it's not the same Canelo. He looked good coming back against Munguia after Munguia had the good start. But I'm curious to see how he looks against Berlanga, because we'll get a better gauge of exactly what interests us. And you know, the conversation starts again. Maybe the conversation with Canelo and Crawford starts again because of the way Canelo may look this weekend. We'll see. Or on the weekend of the Canelo fight, not this weekend. I'm already talking like it's this weekend. It's 3 weeks away.
Yep.
But you know what I'm saying. We'll see.
Yeah. One last thing before I let you go, Paulie. It just announced that Shakur Stevenson is not going to be fighting Tank. He's going to be fighting Joe Cordina in the undercard of Bivol and Better Beef.
Yeah.
What do you think about that fight?
Listen, I don't ever like to see guys getting world title fights coming off losses. I know that's a major rule. It used to be a rule. Not nobody upholds it anymore. Tim Tszyu is going to fight for the world title coming off a loss. We see Shakur Stevenson getting a fight for the world title. Not Shakur Stevenson. Cordina fighting Shakur Stevenson for the world title coming off the loss. We've seen other guys do it now. They were about to make Pacquiao with Barrios. Now they were talking about that. That would have been Pacquiao coming off a loss. So, boxing, again, it goes back to what I said in the previous question. If you don't uphold the principles and you start making exceptions, it creates a snowball effect, and that's why people stop caring about the sport. They don't get the fights made for one reason or another. Rules get broken constantly, and people just stop caring, really. And that's why you lose fans. So, when it comes to Cordina, I thought he was a solid champion at 130. He got upset. I think he should, work his way back into contention at lightweight instead of walking right into a lightweight world title fight. I don't think he should be able to do that. But he is a solid fighter. He's an ex-Olympian, as was Shakur. I'm sure they'll make it work in some way or another. But yeah, I mean, you would have liked to see the Tank fight or the Zepeda fight, but you can't hold a gun to people's heads and make them fight either. You know what I'm saying? It's very clear that either Tank and Zepeda or their teams are very apprehensive about getting in there with Shakur. It's very, very clear at this point, one side or another, the business politics, it is what it is. I mean, Shakur's team have said this week, Josh Dubin, who was on Shakur's team, had mentioned that we're waiting for the phone call from Team Davis. We're free agents and we're ready to negotiate. Let me tell you something, bro. Josh Dubin used to represent me at different times in my career. Josh has his own practice. He doesn't need to waste time on boxing. He's not going to say that unless he's serious. So clearly, nobody from Team Davis contacted Shakur Stevenson. So that's why we got the Cordina fight. So hopefully, going forward, we'll see it eventually. I'm curious to see who Davis fights now, though. He didn't fight Shakur. Who are you going to do? What are you going to do?
There's rumors it might be Rayo, Valenzuela.
That's what I'm saying. You see, now you created a different lane where you just avoid them altogether. You do what Haney did, where you just go into another weight class. You'll fight Rayo. Okay, say you beat Rayo. Rayo's a pretty good fighter, but say for argument's sake, right? Tank's gonna be the favorite. He beats Rayo. What are you gonna do then? Rematch Pitbull at 140? You can see the writing on the wall. It's so ridiculous. You can see the writing on the wall. It's gonna become Canelo point 2 here, where he's just avoiding the best fight that can be made in different directions. Honestly, Haney did the same thing, but at least Haney offered a low ball offer to Stevenson, which looking back, maybe Stevenson could have took. You don't know. But at least it was a mild-hearted attempt there. I mean, Tank and PBC are not even. They're trying to go the other way completely. And it's a shame because I really feel like Tank has shown he's gotten better and better and better. He's one of the best fighters in the sport. So you hope that these fights can get made so that the sport benefits itself in and of itself, and the fighters behind these guys continue to benefit from a very rich and competitive and entertaining sport. But I don't know, man. You can't put guns to people's heads. We'll see how it plays out.
I hear that, Paulie. I always love your takes, man. I've always been a huge fan, man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the time.
All right, thank you, man.